One day, this hole in the ground could look like this. In a few thousand years, this trickling stream could turn into this. At Leon County's Fred George Basin Greenway, we could be witnessing the birth of one of the Red Hills Sinkhole lakes.
When we started doing the actual research, when there was a concern that this was going to be a development, we found out just how unbelievably significant Fred George Basin is.
Misty Penton led a grassroots effort to protect this land from impending development.
You have species like the wood storks and the ibises and the great egrets and the little blue heron, all kinds of wildlife habitats.
The Greenway opened in 2016. It doesn't take us long to find one of its treasures.
This is a gigantic tree.
with some not insignificant voice crackling off of it too.
I mean, it's magnificent. So the interesting thing to me about these cypress trees, first of all, they're ancient, and y'all can probably see that. If you were seeing video of the rookery that we just went to, the oldest cypress that were there that Jim Stevenson was able to age are 85 years old, which means they were logged. So these have somehow been able to survive that logging.
Jim Stevenson is Misty's neighbor. As we saw in a recent story, he bought nearby swampland to protect the wood stork rookery. The older trees here at Fred George are one reason Misty fought to protect this greenway.
Legally, the wetlands themselves are protected, but the trees inside them are not.
Deeper into the greenway, the reason we brought geologist Harley Means with us today.
Right here is a really nice example of a cover collapse sinkhole. So underneath us at some point there's limestone, and over time that limestone slowly dissolved away, leaving behind a void space, and that void space could no longer support the overburden, which is what we see here in all around us here, exposed in the side of this sink. All this material went into that void space. At some point, given the right conditions, get a whole influx of water, this thing might deepen.
Here, maybe, is a glimpse into the future. This sinkhole is usually under Lake Miccosukee. It became active last year and drained part of the lake. The largest lakes in and around Tallahassee were created by this kind of sinkhole activity. So, could we be standing at the site of a future Lake Fred George? We can better see the process in action at the Greenway's largest sinkhole.
And at the base of this is actually a hole in the limestone where water that drains out of this piece of property comes and disappears underground and goes into the Floridan Aquifer system. Because it takes surface water, we call them swalettes. This is a classic example of one. And what's interesting about this one is it's actively eroding back into the uplands. And this is a classic example of how uplands get eroded over time by sinkhole activity. And the sinkhole we just climbed out of at one point is probably going to merge with this one. And this is going to become a bigger and bigger ravine. It's going to gradually over time get larger and larger and larger. And this will create a larger basin, which might ultimately become a lake, and at some point might ultimately merge with Lake Jackson.
By establishing the Fred George Basin Greenway, Leon County is protecting the sinkholes and the aquifer beneath them. By protecting the forest around the sinkholes, they ensure that cleaner water flows into the aquifer here.
The really easy educational ways to kind of understand when you're in a flood zone or splash area like the basin is to look at the water stains on the trees. So right now we're walking through it because we've had, few thunderstorms, but regular ones. We don't have a lot of water. But what you can see is that when we have a lot of stormy water, lots of rain come into Tallahassee in this 34 square mile area, that water comes here. And it'll come right up over my head. And within about a week, it's gone. Sometimes even like 2 days. It's really quite remarkable. This was a place that I grew up. I, of course, always thought it was super special, and I've always loved growing up in Tallahassee and Leon County. And then I got an opportunity to learn more about it and protect it and share that and educate other people to it. You understand what you have to protect it because it's your gift, and then protecting it means you got to get in there and get your hands dirty sometimes. And guess what? You feel better. Feel better every time.
For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.